Region Republican host Bob Starkey brings guests from near and far to talk about conservative politics, candidates, and causes here in the region. Brought to you by the Lake County Republican Party, here's your host, Bob Starkey.
Greetings, Northwest Indiana. This is Bob Starkey, host of Region Republicans, a show on WJOB brought to you in part by the Lake County Republican Party. I have a couple quick announcements to make today. I've got a great guest today that I'm really looking forward to getting into. But again, since this is paid for by the Lake County Republican Party, I have some housekeeping measures to take care of. What I would like everybody to think about is the amount of time, energy, effort, and frankly, finances that it takes to get our candidates across the line is pretty intense. And without your support and your funds, it's difficult for a lot of these folks to get all of the very expensive things: door hangers, yard signs, mailers. All of these things cost a lot. So we've got a handful of fundraisers coming up here in October. We've got a fundraiser at Gelsosimo's in Crown Point for Julie Altoff. State Comptroller Elise Nashala has a fundraiser in St. John. Yours truly, myself, I've got one on October 23rd at Docks and Dyer for some of the best barbecue in the area. And then Dave Crane is partnering with Rick Niemeyer for an Oktoberfest fundraiser down in Lowell on October 26th. But where you can find all of that information is at LakeCountyRepublicanParty.com. They have an events page there. It is really maintained well. They've got an events page with calendars where if you're a Republican candidate or one of the organizations, you can submit events. If you are in the community and looking for ways to get more involved, they have a cities and towns and organizations section where whatever your community you're in, you can find contact information, meeting times, frequently asked questions, some resources, and that was all put together by our county leadership, which is Chairman Randy Niemeyer, Vice Chair Leanne Ingerman, Treasurer Chris Salatis, Secretary Stephen Eichner, and our Executive Director Jessica Messler. They do a great job of trying to keep everyone informed, and I have. So that's my housekeeping. Got that out of the way. Paid the bills for the party here. I have Ivan Ursery with me this morning. I've been looking forward to getting you on the show for quite some time now, and it works out that we were both able to take some flex time today. Yeah. We had a this is our Region Republican, our bonus episode, I guess we're calling it, from a couple months ago. We had some power problems here at WJOB, so we were able to sneak in an extra episode. And Ivan and I, we've been friends. We were just talking before this. One of the problems when we both get in here early is I think sometimes we use good content before we actually get on the air. Uh-huh. But we were talking about how we're both on social media. We're both friends. I follow you. You follow me. But maybe other than passing, I don't know that we've ever met. Certainly have never had a conversation, but I've always been you are big into social media, and so it's very easy to find you and to follow you. Yeah. Ivan is the chairman of the Gary GOP. You can correct me if I'm wrong with this. The Gary GOP meeting is the first Saturday of every month. Mm-hmm. At the conference room at 2701 West 45th. Yes. in Gary, and that's at 10:30 a.m. Yes. So again, you can find that on LakeCountyRepublicanParty.com, but you can also hear it right now. So if you're in that area and you're looking to see what's going on with the GOP in Gary, first Saturday of the month, 10:30, conference room at 2701 West 45th in Gary.
On that note, though, this Saturday we're going to the governmental prayer breakfast. All of us are going to support the governmental prayer breakfast this Saturday because this is at the same time.
Right.
So, but every other Saturday we will be
every other Saturday there. Sounds good. I want to get straight into it, and because I think people are probably tired of not only hearing the first 5 minutes hearing me talk, but we're here for your story. So I want to know, who is Ivan Ursery? Tell me who you are. We know you're up in Gary, but how did you become the Gary GOP chairman? What events in your life led us to that part?
That's I'm gonna give you the condensed version.
This is the 4-hour episode of Region Republicans.
The condensed version is I was a real smart kid as a child. I was born in Gary, and we left Gary when I was like 7 years old. So only elementary school I went to at Gary was Franklin Elementary. Then we went to Maryville. And as a child, I had friends from, Maryville was pretty diverse. It was still majority white. So I had friends from all backgrounds, white, Mexican. I don't know too many Filipinos, but we had a little, diversity. And as the influx of black students started coming in from Gary as well, I felt, and maybe cultural pressure, I felt like I got to hang with the black kids. So elementary school, I was, just had friends from every group. And then middle school, I said, let me just start, kind of shun my white friends. Nothing they did, but let me hang with the black kids, And so then in middle school, I started hanging with black kids, I was trying to fit in more so. And so I started falling behind in my studies. I really wasn't as motivated for school. And that didn't have nothing to do with my friend group per se. This had to do with my relationship with my father, and not motivated. There's a lot of different factors that played into that. So middle school, then I started getting in a lot of trouble. And then by the time I got to high school, the teachers at elementary school was like, no, when they heard stories about me getting in fights, getting expelled, getting suspended, they're like, it can't be that same Ivan from elementary school.
He's the same kid we knew?
Yeah, he's such a sweet kid, and he was so smart and all this stuff. So me trying to fit in and me trying to maybe pretty much find my way led me down to getting in a lot of trouble. So by the time I got to high school, my senior year, I did some stuff. Was looking at some jail time. By the grace of God, I was on my way to the military. They gave me a whole bunch of community service. And as soon as I was done with that, I said, I'm out of here. You guys won't ever see me again. I'm not getting any more trouble in my life. And I shipped out to the Navy. And so in the Navy, I thought I was changed, but after a boot camp and after I got to the fleet, that same stuff started happening again. I started getting into altercations. I was always getting into fights and altercations. I always had to have something to prove. And so I gave my life to the Lord. I tried to talk to this girl at the mall, Filipino girl. She invited me to church. I said, yeah, you come pick me up from base. I'll go to church with you. And so she picked me up from base. And then I walked into the church, and me being from the Midwest, I was like, okay, I see black, white, Hispanic, Asian. I see all these young college kids worshiping the Lord. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Kind of took me back to when I was a kid, when I had friends from every background. And I said, well, we know this is going to be a white pastor, because coming from the Midwest, there's no way all these young people are sitting under a black pastor or anything but a white guy. And when the pastor got up, he was black. I was like, whoa, it was a culture shock. So I was like, wow. So my whole concept of not race, I don't even like to say race, ethnicity and ethnic relations kind of changed in that moment. But then I gave my life to Christ that day. First one on the altar, gave my life to Christ. And from there, it transformed my thinking, right? And then I had friends from every background, and I loved it. I loved the diversity. I loved just everybody being in unity. And while I was out there, it was this thing called Proposition 8. It was on the ballot for California for marriage to be between a man and a woman. And the people have voted. And it shocked California because they think like, it's a liberal state. No way that's going to pass, But San Diego was pretty conservative because of the military presence there. And so it passed. The same year President Obama was elected, Prop 8 passed. And let me back it up a little bit. When President Obama, I was all for President Obama. Like, yeah, I'm excited because, being from this area, see him. My sister used to dance in the Bud Billiken parade. And I'm like, oh, he's cool. He got swag, black guy, There's somebody, this is right after I got saved, gave me a Vote Smart card. And I never knew, I wasn't politically active. And it's lined up what he voted for. And what the other guy, I think it was Romney, whoever he ran for first, voted for. I'm like, wow. And as a new Christian, I was like, in good conscience, I can't vote for him because his views don't line up with the word of God. Even though he said he's Christian, I see his voting record. So that's what got me engaged politically. But that whole Prop 8 thing, when the people of California voted that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and then Kamala Harris, I think she was Attorney General during that time.
I think so, yes. She
overturned the will of the people, and then they started allowing same-sex couples to get married. I mean, like, they took it out. So the people voted for it, and they overrode the people's will. And I was like, how can they do that? So that's what got me involved in politics. And like, wow. And so then from there, I knew I was moving back home. And so I said, who is my, elected representative? And I saw that it was Congressman Voslowski. So I just started looking at what he votes for in D.C. and everything. I was like, wow. Like, do the people in Northwest Indiana know what he really votes for in D.C.? And so that has led me on a little journey. And then when I first moved back, I went to one of his town halls and I saw him. He just filibustered the whole time, and I had questions and everything. And then I had even set up an interview with one of his aides. Like, she said, yeah, you can interview him after his town hall. And I guess they didn't like the question that I was giving, because they were like, where is he coming from asking these questions? We want to talk about economic stuff. We don't talk about moral stuff or anything dealing with families, anything like that. So
and anything that he was voting for at the time.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Which I understand now, being in politics, you're not trying to, you want to keep the people, which is not good, in the dark with that kind of stuff. You want to talk about what you want to talk about. So anyway, when after his town hall, I said, I'm ready for my interview. She's like, oh no, you didn't have to interview him. So they just played me. And after that, I was like, oh, this is how this game goes. And so it really got me kind of enraged. Like, that's how they do. I'm a constituent. This is how you guys play me. But then my pastor and his wife were saying, just don't focus on that right now. Focus on evangelism and everything like that, because I'm naturally, love to share the gospel and stuff. And so I was focused on that. But then always inside of me, like, I'm keeping up with what's happening politically, nationwide, locally, and everything. And so that's what got me involved pretty much. And then even with our representative, State Senator Earlene Rogers, I had asked her one day about her voting record. She said, you know what, you're the first one really to ask me about these things in my 30, however long she was a state senator. And so that is, let me know that there's a lot of stuff to go on and people are ignorant. And for a lot of the politicians, it's good for them that the people are ignorant, because that works to their benefit. It is.
A lot of times, especially you talk about, asking some of those questions of Pete Voslowski when he was in there, we're going to hold this town hall meeting. We're going to talk about what I've decided that we're going to talk about. Yeah. And some of this other stuff that I vote on, it's a public record, but we're not going to talk about that, because as and occasionally both parties fall into this, but I'm a Democrat, so I'm just going to vote how the other Democrats vote, and it almost doesn't matter what's going on back home.
Exactly.
And because of that, we don't need to talk about it, because you should just know whatever, again, at that time that, say, Obama was pushing, we're just going to vote for, because that's what we're being told to do. Yeah. And which, again, occasionally you'll see Republicans doing that with Trump. But if they can defend it, then I'm okay listening to it. But when they say, no, we're not going to talk about that. So with this story that you have, that you're bringing to you're bringing back to Gary with the GOP. I know you guys you guys have had several fundraisers over the last, I'm going to say 2 years, but I don't know what time.
I've been chairman for like a year, a little bit over a year.
You guys have been doing something. What type of message are you trying to bring to the Gary community that's saying, hey guys, look, we have a different option over here? What does that look like from you? Again, I see you out all the time in your neighborhoods, and you just said you love sharing the gospel. You like communicating with folks. And so what does that look like as you're knocking on doors and talking to folks, saying, hey guys, there's another option out here?
One message in particular I was trying to relay maybe a year and a half ago is, just because you're black don't mean you have to vote Democrat. It was catchy too. It kind of caught on.
It's got a good rhyme to it.
Yeah. So just because you're black, you don't have to vote Democrat. And that's the crux of the whole thing to me is identity politics. So our message is, look at the platform and look at the issues more so than looking at it's just the party. Like, my dad was a Democrat, so I'm a Democrat. What are they actually standing for? The thing is, I want to inform people two things. Like, look at what the issues were back in the 60s when the 70s when your parents were voting. Are those the same issues now? And how has the party changed over time? Historically, what the thing is, I want to inform the black people, especially black people in Gary, is that right after slavery ended during Reconstruction, the first black senators and congressmen were Republicans. We were voting Republican. And even we look at Gary history, I went to Gary Library down on 5th and go to their history room. Even in the 20s, even 20s, 30s, 40s, we were voting Republican. William Means, I think his name is William Means. He developed Means Manor over there by Roosevelt High School.
Okay.
He ran as a Republican. So it was not, always like this. It's been the last 50 years that we vote Democrat. But I want to give the historical context and what the Republican Party actually stands for when you look at it with, how it relates to the home and the family structure. I believe as a Republican, some Republicans, I believe marriage is between a man and a woman, and the society, strong families make strong society. And we have weak families, we have weak society. I want to express that those type of ideals that we know we need in our communities, I want to express those ideals and show them that we don't want to give you anything, like just give you free stuff. We want to, like they said, teach a man how to fish and he'll fish for the rest of his life. He'll have fish for the rest of his life. Give a man a fish, whatever the thing is. I'm not going to butcher it here, but we want to empower the black community and Gary, not just the black community, but I'm focused on the black community, especially the men. I want to empower them and let them know that the government is not our daddy. The government, we don't really need the government. We want small government. And when you have a smaller government and you're self-sufficient, then you prosper. And the whole idea on long-term generational welfare, where you got 3 or 4 generations that's been on welfare, and even men that's able-bodied, that's doing you a disservice if you're allowed to continue down that path. You might think, it's helping you, but it's really hurting you. And so all those messages I want to, push and show them how conservative values, we were found on conservative values. Right after slavery, we want to prove to the white people pretty much, because we know who we were enslaved by. And on that note, it's only 13%. People always talk about, white people this. It's only 13% of white Americans held slaves. So it wasn't even a majority. But after slavery, we want to prove that we were just as good as them. And we are better, even better than them. So we had families. We had our own small businesses. We did things that we should be doing now because we had something to prove. We went to school all night to read, to catch up, because we weren't allowed to read. So all those things are in our lineage, in our heritage, and I want to get back to that self-sufficiency. I want to get back to that independence. I want to get back to that mindset that it's nothing we can't do. It's nobody stopping us. Nobody can stop us from what we need to do. And I even give credit to our mayor now, even though he's a Democrat. I love the job he's doing with Gary, and I see him working across the aisle, working with other people and trying to get things done. And I don't hear too many excuses of what's holding them back from doing things. I might be here and there, which sometimes it's just politics, but I like the fact that he's moving forward and taking like the bull by the horn. So I give him credit, Mayor Melton, credit for that. But just that I can do it. And that's why I like Trump so much, is because he's just, to me, he represents, like, nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to get what I need to get done, and I'm going to say exactly how I want to say it. You're not going to stop me. You're not going to make me get off of the topic I'm speaking about. I just like, as a man, I respect him as a man and the way he moves. Not saying he hasn't had his moral challenges and all that stuff, all of us, but as a man, I respect the way he moves and the way he leads. And so the hard thing with Gary is, like, people want to separate themselves from Trump because it's a bad taste in people's mouths. But I'm just gonna keep it real, I rock with Trump.
and there's a handful of things I try to remind folks about. Is one, as soon as you get into politics, it's very easy to. So for us, this is the Region Republican show, and the natural tendency is to think, they're all pro-Trump. Yeah, we like Trump, but I always caution folks not to hitch your wagon to some political star, because at some point everybody here is going to fail you some way or another. Yeah. There is not a candidate or a politician out there that you agree with 100% of the time, and so I caution folks against that. Two other things that you had brought up. One, you were talking about how we believe in small government, and something that I've always liked to say is, the smallest unit of government is the best, and frankly, the smallest unit out there is the family. Mm-hmm. And if you've got there's a reason why the traditional nuclear family worked for so long, because if you're getting together and you're solving problems at the dinner table, that is the first and best place to change your community. Exactly. Because then if every house on your street was able to do that, the street would be better. Mm-hmm. And then if one house fails, you have surrounding neighbors to take care of them. Yeah. So the smallest unit of government is best. And the last the anecdote that I'll throw your way on your conversation is talk about how folks will say, well, my dad was a Democrat, his dad was a Democrat, so I'm a Democrat, not really paying attention to what people are saying. Mm-hmm. When I ran the first time in 2019, I had, aside from having an elephant on my yard sign, I didn't necessarily blast that I was a Republican. Not out of any shame. It just frankly didn't work on my signage, adding another word on there. So I put the elephants. But I also figured that, you knock on any door and they're going to know within a few minutes of me talking about fiscal responsibility and all those things that I'm Republican. Yeah. So I had all of my stuff out there. I had a website, Facebook page, and there was a resident in town who asked for my yard sign. And you're as a candidate, before someone wants your yard sign, you're more than happy to go put that up. So I put out, and about a week later, she reached back out to me and said, "Hey, they told me that you're a Republican. I got to get this yard sign." I was like, "Oh, okay, fair enough. If you don't, but I didn't realize you were a Republican." But you liked everything that I said. Exactly. Because, again, at the municipal level, which you ran for, I think, at large.
Yeah, I ran for councilman at large.
Councilman at large. On these levels that we ran for, we're not dealing with issues of life and gun control and borders. We're talking about police, parks, paving. Those are the 3 Ps that I always harp on, that, some of these local municipal folks need to stay in their lane. Police, parks, and paving. And so I said, so what didn't you like? Well, I liked all of it, but you're a Republican.
Exactly.
I said, well, I think that's part of the problem is we just, and it sounds like that's something that you're confronting too in Gary, is people just walk in the polling booth, they pull the Democrat lever because that is what their families have done. That is what society is telling them that they need to do, because the other guy's the bad guy. They don't even need to put a face on it. It's just, hey, you're this. Anybody who is not you in this is bad.
They push that narrative that they're not for you. They're trying to take away this, trying to take away that. And, they're racist. I mean, that's the same narrative that was in the press. When I was a kid, I didn't even know about politics. They say, oh, yeah, they're going to put you back in slavery. And that's when I was like 12 years old. So it's the same narrative they try to push. I'm happy that it's kind of, with social media, TikTok, X, and all that stuff, it's kind of dissipated. Like, they don't have a stronghold on the young generation. Even with what happened with Charlie Kirk, people are starting to, because his videos are going viral now, people are starting to listen and hear like, oh, what he was saying, some of the stuff he was saying was right. So I'm happy that because of social media, that a lot of that stuff is they don't have such a stronghold.
Because and I think that is part of the issue is there's not some mechanism anymore where a party can have an absolute hold on the population. Mm-hmm. You just listed half a dozen platforms where folks can go out there and you see for yourself. Mm-hmm. You don't have to say, oh, my name's Ivan. Just trust me. Trump is doing this, and he said this. You could say, well, listen for yourself and listen to the whole thing. Yeah. Don't just listen to
sound bites.
Take 20 minutes and listen to the speech of Trump or Charlie Kirk or Barack Obama or Kamala Harris. Listen to what they have to say, and then form your own opinion. Yeah. There's nothing stronger that you can do for yourself than educate yourself and form your own opinion. Yeah. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes left in the show. How are you working to change some of that narrative in Gary? Because that has to be, just objectively, that has to be a monumental task to say, I'm going to be the chairman of the Gary GOP, and I'm going to start to change the perception of, hey, you can't vote Republican because of a litany of things. What's it look like in your mind when you're thinking, I'm going to start to change this?
Well, people, they reach out to me, some of them are closeted conservatives, especially minorities, they reach out to me and talk to me. I just say, come to our meetings, and I make sure I take a lot of pictures, a lot of video, so they can hear from other people, their perspectives on things, and get people out there shelling out their comfort zone to be able to speak on the issues too. So just keep recruiting people. So the more people in Gary see more black people that's conservative, they're like, oh wow, okay, and people they respect as well, that's conservative, or people they respect that they even know are conservative. And so that's one part of the other part is just serving the people, just trying to do things to serve the people. And because I'm a giver, I love giving. That's just doing things to help meet needs, and that's how you're gonna win people over and let them know, why, the reason why. And it's not just because I'm conservative, but it's because I'm a Christian. And that is pretty much the avenue, being vocal on the issues, but also serving the people and being there and just showing the love. I love being around people. I love to run my mouth. I love being, I'm a people person. So just any way I can, just make relationships with people. And then they find out later, and they follow me on social media, they see I'm conservative. They say, let's see what you got to say, because I already built that relationship first. But I did want to say this before, because I know
you did. You did.
Yeah.
You had.
I wrote it down, and it's dealing with race relations. But I had it on my heart. I've been wanting to say, and so I'm gonna read it, even though I know it happened to me. But I'm gonna read it so I won't miss anything. Okay, so my grandfather. Okay, he harbored resentment toward white people, and understandably so, because as a young boy in Shaw, Mississippi, he witnessed white men lynch a young black teenager. What he saw was seared in his mind, so when he moved north, he brought all that trauma with him. Even though I empathize with my grandfather, I love my grandfather, I emphasize, well, he's gone, passed on, but I understand where he was coming from. My experience with white people has been mostly positive. So I, in good conscience, can't harbor resentment toward them for what my grandfather experienced. When my sister flipped me out of my inner tube in the deep end of the wave pool at Deep River Water Park, it was a little white boy that saved my life. He pulled me out the water. I'm like, I was going up for the last time. I could not get up. He reached his hand down, grabbed me out. He's probably like 10. He's probably like 11. And I was probably like 12. He was younger than me. Okay, so he saved my life. When I graduated Navy boot camp and couldn't get home for Thanksgiving, it was an elderly white couple that took me and a couple other black sailors into their home and cooked us a Thanksgiving meal. When I got to San Diego, it was a white family, shout out to the Aldises, who already had 3 young children of their own that pretty much adopted me and let me hang out and eat dinner with them on Sundays. When I got stuck on a high cliff at Torrey Ponds, it was this cliff in San Diego, and I thought it was a shortcut to get down to the water, but when I got to the edge of the cliff, it was a drop. It was nothing but sheetrock, and I couldn't get down, and I couldn't get back up, and I was unstable. Like, I'm gonna die. If I jump, I'll break my neck. An elderly white guy. Well, it was a elderly white man. He helped guide me down safely. So he pretty much saved my life. And so no amount of media propaganda, no amount of social arrest could get me to feel a certain way against white people in general, as a whole. And I never put any ethnic group into a category. Mexicans, Filipinos, black, white, it's nothing that's going to make me hold resentment or harbor any anger toward people, a group of people, for something that happened in the past. I believe each generation has to take accountability for what that generation has done. I believe the slave generation is gone. Those people, the slave masters, are dead, probably burning in hell, so that generation is done. The next generation is the civil rights era, Jim Crow, they're on their way out the door. So each generation can't hold the other generation responsible for this generation. We have our issues, whatever, but for the most part, I can't be resentful for something that happened 50, 60 years ago. I'm wise enough to know history. I love history, so I know what happened and don't let it happen again. But I'm not gonna, when I see people, I see people. I see your skin color. Of course, it's beautiful. God made all the skin tones, all the amount of melanin or lack of melanin or a little bit of melanin. But I see people, and I always want to know how I can serve people. And I think once we get to that point in society, as Americans, we got Brazil. In Brazil, they're Brazilians. They could be dark as me or light as you. They're Brazilians. That's their national heritage. Once we get to that in America, as Americans, I think we will be able to, as Americans, move forward. I'll consider myself first a Christian, then an American, and then black. That not negate that, you know, I love being black, but that's not the first thing I see. And I think idolatry, sometimes even in the black church, that's idolatry when you put your skin color before God or before the Bible, before Jesus. So I think when we get there and quit idolizing our skin color and quit idolizing other things, and that's for the other side as well, you know, idolizing certain things, I think when we come together as Americans, we can move forward. But if we don't, we're going to be having the same race conversation 60 years from now. And I just want us to move forward. And that's the one thing for the next generation. I want to leave that legacy for the next generation where you can do anything, and no matter the color of your skin, people are not out to get you, and people want you to succeed. And so don't have a little chip on your shoulder. Don't, if somebody from different ethnic groups say something to you, don't automatically get defensive and want to fight. Hear people out, hear when they're actually saying, hear their heart, and not look at it through the lens of race all the time.
I want to thank you for taking some time. I know you had to take some time off work. I'm taking some vacation time too. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate that. I've wanted you on the show for a while, and I will certainly have you back on, because I think your commentary just adds so much value to you know, certainly the party, your community, and this show. So I want to thank everybody for listening to Region Republicans, paid for by the Lake County Republican Party. You can catch us here. We're winding down on WJOB. You can catch us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere where you find your podcasts. My name is Bob Starkey, your host, and we will catch you next month. Thank you.